Guys. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry we're a couple of minutes behind, which is as a result of our deliberations. Thank you all for coming out. You know, my mother used to have this expression, March either comes in like a lamb or a lion, and it's certainly coming in like a pride of lions, apparently. As the cleanup, I want to thank, by the way, a very large chunk of our cabinet being with us today, and it's my first trip to the Rock, so Colonel, thank you for hosting us so graciously. As the cleanup and restoration from this past weekend continues, we are now tracking this latest storm, expected to hit us tonight through tomorrow. We just got off. We just had a mini cabinet meeting, and we also just got off with the National Weather Service, who gave us an update. It's expected to hit us tonight through tomorrow, bringing wet, heavy snow, and yet again the potential for damaging winds across New Jersey. There is, like any prediction of any storm, the question of if, and if so, is it rain, is it snow, where's that line? It sounds like at this point, based on our deliberations with the National Weather Service, that the models that predict these sorts of things are in reasonable alignment, which gives the experts an added boost of confidence that their predictions are more right than wrong. Just as we did with last weekend's nor'easter, we are engaging all levels of government to be ready to act to protect our residents and businesses. And before I list the preparations underway, I think most importantly, I'd like to remind residents of the importance of being personally prepared for a winter storm, of having a plan and an emergency preparedness kit, and to know where to get official information. And in that respect, all of that information is available at www.ready.nj.gov. That's www.ready.nj.gov. So probably most importantly, beyond folks' personal preparedness, I want to say right now that we are announcing a state of emergency statewide, effective at 8 p.m. tonight, military hours 2000, on this day, March 6, 2018, which will go into effect, as I said, tonight at 8 p.m. That is for the entire state, but I say that with a particular emphasis on Hunterdon, Morris, Sussex, and Warren counties. Not only are they the 4 counties that are continuing to deal with these very frustrating, long-fused power outages, but they are also likely to be on the list of counties that, if the models are right, will get hit the hardest, particularly with snow and probably some high winds. And again, that is a state of emergency statewide, effective at 8 p.m. tonight. We will make a decision about whether or not state offices will either be open or closed or delayed opening or early shutdown later on, probably later on today or tonight. So we'll come back to you on that. The State Emergency Operations Center, Colonel, has been up and running since 6 a.m., I believe, this morning. That's correct. So we're already, and you are welcome to ask any questions you'd like. You've got a whole group of leaders in this state who are doing outstanding work, both still working with what's happened this past weekend and also anticipating what's coming before us. The Department of Transportation, I'm going to call it the Diane of Transportation, which is also appropriate. The Department of Transportation, under Acting Commissioner Diane Gutierrez-Scacchetti, several to my left, is prepared to keep our roads and highways clear. I saw this up close and personal both Friday night at the height of the storm at the Traffic Management Center, where we were together, and again yesterday morning in a little bit more of a calmer moment at the same Traffic Management Center. It's an incredible, like the Rock, frankly, it's an incredible multidiscipline operation. The Department of Transportation stands ready to activate the more than 2,500 pieces of snow fighting equipment at its disposal, whether it's plows, spreaders, and loaders, which can be deployed across the state as necessary. In fact, they're pre-positioning as we speak. Yesterday, DOT crews applied a layer of brine to roads across northern and central New Jersey, where the storm should start as snow, particularly up north, as a first measure. The department, I'm not sure we necessarily just weighed this coming in, but I'm told the department has about 207,000 tons of salt available, which is 78% of its capacity, and it's also at 82% of its capacity for liquid calcium. Diane also mentioned in our meeting upstairs that gas stations up and down our Turnpike and Parkway are loaded up to the brim. Food supplies are high in case folks need to get pulled over and or refuel. We thank the crews who will be working in advance this storm, as they don't stop until the storm stops, and hats off to them. I would just say this: please do not venture out onto the roads during the storm. And again, I'm erring on the side, we're erring on the side of caution, but objective caution. So this is not form over substance. We just didn't wake up and decide to pull this group together and make this assessment and draw this conclusion. So on the one hand, we don't want folks to panic, but on the other hand, prudency, responsibility, smart common sense is the words of the day. So please do not venture out onto the roads during the storm. We ask you to stay home so that road crews, whether they be state, county, or local, can attend to their duties. Our goal is to have our major highways passable for emergency vehicles, first and foremost, and capable of fully reopening for commuters once the storm has passed. Colonel Pat Callahan, again, thank you for hosting us, Colonel, and the New Jersey State Police, and there are many members in this very room, have activated, as I mentioned, the State Emergency Operations Center as of 6 a.m. this morning for round-the-clock operations. This activation also pulls together multiple departments to ensure we are constantly monitoring and assessing critical situations from multiple angles. The Emergency Operations Center will also disseminate regular reports and weather updates. Everyone here will be reading from the same page and seeing the same data. And I mentioned we were on with the National Weather Service, which was an important call to influence and inform our decisions, but that's not a moment in time. This is fluid, as you can imagine, and we'll continue to be in touch with them and with each other. The New Jersey Office of Emergency Management is conducting daily conference calls with county emergency management coordinators and will ensure on-site coordination with NJOEM regional representatives throughout the state. NJOEM is also in turn in contact with the Office of Recovery and Rebuilding within our offices, within the front office. Colonel, about to be Adjutant General Jamal Beal, where are you, Colonel? And the New Jersey National Guard are prepared to respond to requests for assistance from the Office of Emergency Management and will be positioning vehicles at select armories and identifying crews who can report to staging areas for rapid mobilization and deployment. Further, the New Jersey National Guard Joint Operations Center will be up on Wednesday morning and readily available to NJOEM if needed to ensure a coordinated response, and I should say Wednesday morning at latest. Our paramount concern and overall goal is, of course, to ensure that all residents are safe and secure. That is my number one responsibility. That is our number one responsibility. Now, the downside of this storm, among other things, is that it has the potential to once again knock out power, including to those residents who just experienced outages stemming from the weekend nor'easter. And unfortunately, too many folks, and this is quite frustrating, and we're pressing hard as heck on the utilities to resolve this, but too many folks remain without power. BPU President, where's Joe? Fiordaliso, sorry, Joe, has remained in close contact since the weekend storms with the presidents of the 4 electric distribution companies which supply New Jersey. I think we all know this, but it was JCP&L's service area that was hit particularly hard, and the BPU has been assisting in the coordination for additional crews to get into that service area. And right now, as I may have mentioned, roughly about 40,000 or maybe just under 40,000 households remain without power. And this is very frustratingly sticky on the downside. And many folks are frustrated by that, and you could count me as yours truly is on that list. I want to give a shout out to PSE&G, and Joe had a lot to do with this, but they have put, I think they've now got 300 boots on the ground? Close to 300 boots on the ground. They've been waved in, and they are augmenting JCP&L's team. It's a lesser number, but as of today, Atlantic City Electric has got several dozen. And so we applaud helping thy neighbors at times like this. With this latest storm threat that we have upon us, the BPU remains, Joe and his team, on alert and ready to step in to assist utilities in ensuring a timely response to any outages. Acting Commissioner Dr. Lamont Repollet is reminding superintendents to frequently check weather forecasts and emergency announcements so they can make expedient decisions that provide families sufficient time to prepare. He's also encouraging superintendents to communicate with neighboring school leaders, to coordinate with district facility managers, and when possible, in fact more than when possible, with flat out their municipalities. Finally, superintendents must notify the executive county offices of any modified schedules and school closures. And you all know how this works. Just because we have a state of emergency, the decision still on school closings rests with the local officials. Obviously, if we have a state of emergency, that's a meaningful, important data point that we know all localities will keep in mind. Overall, we want all residents to be safe throughout this weather event. We urge you not to venture out into the storm, assuming it hits as we expect. And again, we urge you to visit www.ready.nj.gov, www.ready.nj.gov, for ways to make sure you're storm ready. If you do have to go outside, please exercise extreme caution and be careful in particular of any trees or power lines that may have been weakened by last weekend's nor'easter, and which may not need much of an additional push from Mother Nature to come down. We've already had at least one tragedy over the weekend in that respect. Even better than being careful when you're out is to stay in. New Jerseyans are a tough bunch, and we'll get through whatever gets thrown our way together, and we will get through this safely. Again, our job today is to not panic folks by any means, but to be prudent, to be responsible, to use common sense. That's what we're going to use, and we encourage everybody around the state to use the same prudency, common sense, and responsibility. With that, once the Russians get through with their little work here, we'll be happy to take a couple of questions. Had to work in some foreign policy there, just in case you were paying attention at home. Hold on one second here. This will give us a chance to get our bearings.
Always have an IT guy close.
Yeah, always. That could have been my phone. So forgive me for that. Please, down front here.
Governor, you mentioned, referenced this in your prepared remarks, but to drive the point home, some people enjoy going out, they want to see what's happening. How important is it for people to really be careful and not do anything stupid?
Yeah, it's really important. It's a very good question. For those of you who couldn't hear it, how important is it for folks who may want to go out and see what's going on to use their common sense and instead stay back home? It's incredibly important. Listen, I just said to these folks, I'm going to speak about myself. We're clearing up the schedule tomorrow, beginning at 8 o'clock tonight, in fact. I'm willing and able to be out there to help, but I don't want to get in the hair of the folks who are trying to clean the roads, get houses and schools and hospitals the power and support and supplies they need. So even I've got to keep that in mind. Doing stuff just for show or just for fun, this is not the moment to do that. God willing, listen, God willing, first and foremost, we're wrong and this thing misses us. It's 40 degrees, it's rain, it's not too much rain that we get flooding, the wind's not too high, we get damage. We get the last of those homes, power again from the last storm. If it does hit, let's all exercise common sense, stay close to home, stay off the road. Hopefully we'll get a sunny day on Thursday and folks can go out in the front lawn and make a snowman. But let's, while we're at the point of attack, let's everybody use common sense and hold back. Please.
Folks who are customers of JCP&L have complained that the utility should have seen this coming. The forecasts were very clear as we were going into this Friday's nor'easter. They're disappointed that there wasn't more preparation ahead of time, and that some of them feel they're not going to get power back before the next storm hits. They want to know if there's a way to
Yeah. There are many folks out there who are frustrated. I may ask Joe to come on up and augment this. There are many folks out there who are frustrated, and that includes me. At one level, listen, there were some good reasons early on, and I'll give you a couple that are realities. Number one, the winds were very high, and there was a real safety issue with putting those buckets up in the air and the safety of the men and women who would be in those buckets, which is understandable. You then had over I think, 1,000 roads that were blocked off due to downed trees. Again, that required a certain amount of, as you can imagine, effort to get that cleared up. But yeah, I'd like to have seen, I share some of that frustration. Again, I think they're working hard. I'm not an expert in the power business, but I feel like if we had a longer runway, maybe positioning equipment, maybe reaching out earlier to the other utilities that have augmented the staffing. I think when this is over, Joe and I were talking about this upstairs, we're going to do a postmortem and figure out what worked and what didn't work. And I'm hoping that those folks who are frustrated, and I don't blame them, by the way, we were in touch since Friday with, I don't want to say every mayor, because there'll be a mayor out there who we missed and left a voicemail or missed each other. But we had a deep, intense, and we are as we speak, with the communities that were impacted, not just on power, on downlines, on block roads, on heating challenges, to name a few, public safety, obviously. So we were intensely and remain intensely involved, but there is still lingering frustration. And it's in particular folks who haven't had their power back. In some cases, God willing, they'll get it back before tomorrow hits, but there may be some, in fact, that we're hearing that may not get it back. And I don't blame them for being frustrated. Joe, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, thank you, Governor. Just to add on to a little bit of that, post-Sandy, we instituted, the Board of Public Utilities, a number of procedures. And all of the utilities went into storm preparation mode prior to the storm coming. They didn't expect, as the governor indicated, over 1,000 roads that were impassable. They had to clear those roads before they could get in and start the restoration. As far as crews from other utilities, there are over 30 companies right now who are in the JCP&L service territory who are assisting in restoration. There's over 2,800 boots on the ground for it. But keep in mind, please, I think this is very important, utilities are not going to release their crews until they assess and determine how their territory is and how many outages their territory has. And that's a major consideration. Once they clean their own territory up, they're then willing to go and assist. And as I told JCP&L and I told Atlantic City Electric, it's New Jersey first. We don't send any crews out of this state until we clear up New Jersey and make sure New Jersey is back online.
Amen. I want to say one other traffic point, which I meant to say earlier that Diane and the Colonel were addressing in our meeting, and they're in coordination. But just to say this in case you wonder if this storm does hit, why things are happening the way they're happening. What New York does and what Pennsylvania does matters to us, particularly as it relates to interstates. So they're in close coordination with both New York and Pennsylvania, because if they make decisions, it could lead to a diversion of traffic, including truck traffic. And as we all know, but for the very northernmost segments, the Garden State Parkway, with those old arch bridges, can't take that. And so we have implications that are beyond our state that these folks are well out ahead of and trying to coordinate. But just know that that's one thing that is also on our list. Please.
Just go briefly off topic. Want to get your thoughts on Senate President Sweeney's proposal to add like a 3% surcharge to the corporate tax rate. Want to know what you think about that, and specifically if you consider that maybe as an alternative to the millionaires tax.
Yeah, I read it with great interest. I think it's got some appeal. We are engaging with the Senate President's team. I can't tell some of the features yet. There is not a lot of detail. For instance, is it a one-timer versus an ongoing? Is it indiscriminate? So I would be concerned about small businesses. The amount that the lower end cutoff looked to me like a small business, and the small businesses in this state have been either neglected or ravaged over the past 8 years, and I don't see it as an alternative. It perhaps as an additional weapon at our disposal. But I love the creative thinking that's coming from any corner. But we're going to give it some more. We're going to give that some more thought. Absolutely, please.
Governor, you started by.
I'm shocked there was an off-topic question, by the way.
You started back on topic. You started by saying that you were running late because of the deliberations.
Yes.
Can you give us a little insight as to what that process looked like in trying to go forward to plan for the storm, and what it's likely to look like going ahead as the storm?
Yeah. So we're 7 weeks in as of today. And so as of this past Friday, when I walked through the doors of the Traffic Management Center, which I've been driving by my whole life and didn't realize it, I'm going through this as of now a number of days ago for the first time. And so a couple of comments I'll make, and then maybe I'll ask the Colonel to come up, because the Office of Emergency Management, which is under the domain of the State Police, is sort of the central player for all of the importance of all of us up here, and each one of us represents an important element. That entity, that body, is the sort of hub in many respects of the wheel as it relates to times like this. A couple of watchwords for me is, one, we don't do things for form; we're doing it for substance. So substantively, what do we need to be doing? That's the first question you ask. Secondly, it's a whole of government approach, both laterally and vertically. I mean laterally, looking at the group that's represented with me here today, but also vertically, very importantly. I mentioned earlier that we've been in intense relations at the community levels, at the county level, at the school district levels since Friday. Certainly at the house to house as it relates to restoration of power. So it is the full spread this way and this way. And I think if you think otherwise, you're going to miss something. You're gonna leave some flank exposed. And so with that, I'll love the Colonel to come up and briefly just give a sense of how that hub function actually works.
Thanks, Governor. As the Governor indicated, the Cabinet, most of the Cabinet, is entirely new and 7 weeks in. So we thought it important that they come here. Actually, in a few weeks, the entire Cabinet's going to come to an event here, which will give them a familiarity of what the Rock and this Fusion Center is about. But what it'll also serve to do is there's a big room we call the support room behind these walls, where there's various what we call emergency support functions, whether it's transportation, communication, health, energy. A storm like this, although it's nothing that we wish upon ourselves or our state, gives us a good opportunity to test our procedures and to have those Cabinet level members in the room getting information from boots on the ground on that support room floor. They then feed that information up to the Cabinet so we can, alongside with the Governor, make recommendations so we have well-informed decisions that ensures the public safety, which is really what the Emergency Operations Center is about. We're poised in there to help all 21 counties. Municipalities will reach out to their counties if they need anything. The way our resource requests work in there is we'll run them down and make sure if a county has any type of request or need for support, that's what this whole operation is entirely about. So to bring this smaller group of Cabinet level members together at the Rock for the first time, again, it's going to snow from what I understand, but it does give us a good opportunity to test our procedures and probably more importantly, to build this rapport and these relationships with one another. As we say, if you're getting to know your emergency management folks during the height of the storm, then you've missed the mark. Yeah. So we're getting together, and it's serving that purpose too. Amen. Thanks, Amen. Governor.
That's a very fair point. To be able to preemptively get together and coordinate, as we've been now doing for a whole number of days, helps a whole lot. Maybe just one or two more, please. Yep. Yeah, in a big way. I'll get Joe to come back up, but I think PSE&G has, as of today, he and Pete Camerano, they added another 100 boots on the ground from PSE&G. Atlantic City is as of today or last night?
30 more boots.
30 more boots on the ground, and they're frustrated, and so am I. I echo the question earlier. Bless you. Folks are saying, come on, man. And so we're doing everything we can to augment what they're doing. The good news is if through those blinds, it's sunny, it's not terribly cold, and it's not very windy right now. And they are apparently making a lot of progress today. And let's hope that continues. Maybe one more, please.
Given the effects of the last storm, did that weigh heavily on your decision to declare the state of emergency for this storm? And it's kind of going through this now for a first time as governor, or are you kind of learning this as far as when to declare states of emergency?
Yeah, I defer to we're big substance people making decisions based on fact and science. The office of, and this is not making light of the people who are suffering, by the way, and believe me, they are, particularly those without power. But we take our cue from the Office of Emergency Management. And we've been working morning, noon, and night since Friday, at least Friday. I think probably even before Friday because it hit on Friday. In fact, since Thursday at least. We believe we put, but for the glaring reality of too many homes from the utilities standpoint that are without power, these folks made the very clear decision that in the weekend situation that was not warranted. We believe this is a different requirement, a different potential. Among other things, you've got the about to be Adjutant General up here with all the power associated with the National Guard, that the collective wisdom in the Office of Emergency Management, among other things, said, you know what, we need to have that at our disposal without waiting. We know that we've got them as allies in this fight. So these are two different realities. Neither one of them are good. This is a different one that we think requires the state of emergency. Maybe one more.
To follow up with Chris's question, you said that you were in touch with the Senate President and staff. Did you know ahead of time that we were going to be announcing this today?
I personally didn't. I don't want to speak for the staff. It's the staffs that have been involved. We knew that he had a group together looking at tax alternatives, and I think you all have asked me before how we felt about that, and we need all the good ideas, all hands on deck for good ideas given the state of the state that we've inherited. And so we're going to look at that and go from there. I think we're good, right? Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate it. Thanks, Governor. Thanks for hosting us, man. Was that right on the spot? Okay.